So Michel, thank you for coming. Really appreciate it. So just to capture what we're doing here. So this is the Ingram Micro Jabra, powered by Jabra podcast booth.
Love it.
Michel Bouman from Microsoft. So you are a very, very long title, shortened for the benefit of yours truly here. EMEA Senior Solutions Specialist Lead for Teams Room. So for those that know Michel, they know him as a bit of a superstar. I certainly refer to him that way everywhere he goes. He hates that, absolutely hates that when I say it. But so Michel, I guess the first thing really is, how are you finding the show?
Oh, I'm loving it. First of all, thank you for having me. It's always fun to do these shows, and I see you around quite a lot now as well. So I think you're the one that's becoming the superstar.
I don't think so. I'm not so sure about that.
No, but GITEX is great. This is my second GITEX. I come to Dubai. So my team looks after the EMEA region. And the EMEA region is very important for us, right? So we're seeing a lot of growth in the region. There's a lot of appetite for Teams rooms, which is great. I mean, can you imagine? It's only been 2 years since we came out of the pandemic, and the way that the region here has adopted Teams rooms has been amazing. The amount of investments that have been made to build these amazing experience centers. Yeah. You don't see that anywhere else in the world. So it's always fun for me to be here, meet the people here, and then meet some folks from our side of the pond as well.
That's it, exactly. It's amazing how many people from Western Europe actually made their way to GITEX. Yeah. It's my first year, so I can't talk from experience about being here before, but to be honest with you, the amount of, shall we say, local speakers from the UK that I've encountered, as well as obviously many other regions besides, it's really refreshing to see. It's nice when you see a big open market like this, and like you say, the exponential growth of this region. We all know Dubai and the Gulf is generally in a bit of a wealth bubble anyway, so not affected by the same conditions that some of the other parts of the world are. But I think generally the adoption of Teams and Teams rooms as products and product services within that sort of category has been very openly adopted by a lot of partners and end users alike. And I think one of the key questions that I've been dying to ask you really is, how is the relationship with the various manufacturers and vendors alike? How has that sort of begun to blossom as far as Microsoft are concerned? Because obviously we had a lot of slow adopters initially, the pandemic happened, and then what we have is a huge explosion of technology, huge explosion of adoption, and obviously vendors scrambling to catch up to some extent. So how have you seen that journey going, and where do you feel that is right now?
So we're very kind of tough when it comes to accepting new vendors and new OEMs. It's so we have the certification process, which is not easy at all, right? So they have to live up to quite a high spec. My daughter just called me for the second time. Live up to quite a high spec. So we're not making it easy, but at the same time they're building a lot of great products, and we are still pretty strict. We're limited to about 9 or 10 OEMs right now. We're slowly adding a couple more, but I think that's about it, right? And we have a lot of vendors coming to us saying, well, can we be certified as well? Well, the answer right now is really no, right? We want to build on the ecosystem that we have, and that is going really well. I don't think we should overcomplicate it for customers. Yeah. Right? Customers are already struggling. What do I choose for what? Right? So I think the amount of OEM vendors that we have now, I think that's quite the right amount, and all from various parts of the technology, right? So if you look at Jabra, for example, they were big on audio, and then all of a sudden they started adding video, and they're doing great with their Pentacast P50, and now with their Android system. So it's fun to see the developments with all these different OEMs.
I think it is that you've hit the nail on the head. I was struggling for the words there. It is actually very exciting, very fun to see what the manufacturers are coming up with. Obviously, I can't speak about it. I'm sure you know, but I can't tell the general public just yet because we're under NDA. But I did see some of the new products that are planned, or at least in development from Jabra. And I think from what they're looking to bring to the market, it's really closing the gap between where they are now and where they need to be in comparison to their competition. So actually they're making a lot of strides forward, and I think that's very indicative of the market in general. We're hearing very similar things from everybody else as well, that they're developing at a furious pace, not least because of the adoption of Microsoft Teams and Teams Rooms for us. And what we hear from our partner base is that actually the conversation around, is it Teams, is it something else, it's kind of done now, isn't it? It's Teams as one. It's very universally accepted. Everybody's preferred ecosystem for the most part. There are obviously those that still have preferences elsewhere. We shan't name who they are, but I think we can all guess. So I think what maybe some of the listeners to this might be interested to hear from a Microsoft perspective is, where does it go from here? Obviously, we know about the innovations on Copilot and AI generally, which is, at this moment in time, Microsoft's mantra,
yes.
For obvious reasons. You guys have a dominant position, and it's a fantastic integration piece for Teams and Teams Rooms. So what can we see that is coming to Teams and Teams Rooms in particular that would interest our listeners?
Right, so short term, the introduction of intelligent audio and intelligent video, or the next step in intelligent audio and intelligent video. Jabra's the first one that's going to have the intelligent audio feature that's going to be able to pick up 10 different people in a room. Just imagine you being in a meeting, you're dialing in virtually, and you have 4 or 5 people sitting in that room, you're not sure who said what. Now with the intelligence that we have with audio with Jabra, we can distinguish those people. So you'll see Michel said this, Carlos said that in the room. And then the next step, which is the next wave, is intelligent video, where we'll be able to do people recognition. And so you have people recognition, you'll see active speaker as well. And you'll see the full panorama shot, so you'll see the dynamics of the room at the same time. But everybody having their own little video image so multi-stream over the compose or composite view, which you've seen now. That's very important, because 85 to 90% of all of our communication is non-verbal. Right? So you want to be able to see everybody in their own little video stream, and to be able to pick up that frown or that nod or that smile or wherever it might be. Right? So that's where that is going to help. If we take it one step further, we're going to make it even more frictionless to deploy a room. Right? That's something that we're going to invest in.
What can you say?
Nothing is just going to be more frictionless, and you'll hear about it in the next few months. Ignite is around the corner, so we will be making some announcements there. It's going to become a lot easier to deploy a room, right? And I think that opens it up for partners as well. And it opens up a whole new world of opportunities, opens up a new world of managed services. And if you combine that then with the Pro Management Portal, which I think is still being underutilized, if you ask me. I mean, you and I are nerds, right? We're nerds, and we know how to set up the resource account. I'm not a big fan of PowerShell. I know how to use PowerShell, but every time I need to configure the resource account, and we're getting real nerdy now. Every time I need to configure the resource account, I kind of have to look up what's the code again that I need to use, and it has something to do with auto accept and third party. Now you just go to Pro Management Portal, you do apply recommended, you hit save, and that resource account is configured through the Pro Management Portal.
And so it's that simple.
It's that simple. So it starts there. And then when I talk to customers and I ask them, what kind of equipment do you have? What's your inventory like? How many rooms do you have? They often don't have the answers. Right now with Pro Management Portal, you'll get full insights of your inventory. You'll get a planning tool, so you can plan which rooms to kit out with what devices. And then once the devices are in, if there's an issue, I mean, you as Ingram don't want to go visit all these customers or tell your partner to visit the customers. You don't have the time, right? But now in Pro Management Portal, you'll see that there's an issue. We'll try to mitigate it in our cloud first. But I think that's the big advantage of all these signals that we're getting from all over the world, is that if there's an issue and it's a known issue, we might be able to mitigate that in the cloud. So we'll try to mitigate it. You can be one
step ahead of the problem, essentially.
Exactly. If it's something that we can't fix, like some admin tried to forgot to change the default password. Stuff like that happens. But you'll see in the Pro Management Portal there is a security issue. The issue is there's a default password still active. This is why it's an issue. And then click this link to fix it. And it'll show you exactly how to fix it. And this is where partners can build their managed services as well, to really help customers to understand what devices do you have? How do we help you plan to deploy more rooms? How do we then manage the devices? Right, and I think that's the kind of the change of value proposition that AV partners now have to go to. But again, it opens up a whole new world for partners that are used to selling Microsoft 365 and other CSP type of licenses.
It gives them those different avenues to go down, chase a different rabbit down the rabbit hole. It's interesting that you say about the simplicity behind it, because some of the criticisms that we've heard in the past is that it's a little bit complex, it's more time consuming and things like that. That's really not the case anymore. You know, much of that argument has gone away, and as you continue to innovate as a manufacturer, we see that really isn't a concern that comes up with a lot of partners. And in fact, previously the BYOD discussion versus native was very much in favor of BYOD, because we just plug an external device and away we go. Now actually I feel, and correct me if I'm wrong here, I feel that maybe we've gone down the route of, that's now swung the other way, where actually it becomes more intrinsically straightforward to implement a native solution rather than BYOD?
I'll tell you why from two different perspectives. I'll start with the user perspective. You've been here, so you walk into a meeting room with your laptop. You see this little bundle of cables sitting on the table. Again, you and I are nerds. We know what to do. But the average person, they have no idea. Plus, nobody wants to give up their laptop, right? All of a sudden, everybody's battery is almost dead, or there's something super important that needs to happen.
Yeah, that's usually me.
Or you're waiting for an important email. All that stuff. There's always an excuse. And then finally, somebody's like, you know what? Just use mine.
Yeah.
So they go to the bundle of cables. By the way, one laptop breaks every year because somebody's trying to push an HDMI cable into a USB port.
Is it really?
That's happening.
That's a legitimate, verifiable fact.
Yes, for sure.
I love that. That's cool.
So now they finally connect their laptop, and all of a sudden the display is not working. There's always something wrong. So they've done studies of this. What they found out is that it takes 10 minutes to start these meetings. Right. You know this. If you schedule a meeting with me today, our meeting is 25 minutes always, right? Yeah. I think and that's another topic, but we need to rethink what meetings are about. Meetings are not about informing somebody. It's about making a decision, right? Meetings are made for making decisions and not for informing.
Outcomes.
Right, so back to the BYOD scenario. So the user, it's not really ideal for them. Now let's talk about the IT perspective. If you're an IT admin, and again, I talk to customers a lot, and they don't know what devices are in the room. They might know because they ordered them. They have no idea if they're up to date. They have no idea if they're still working. They often have no idea if they're still there, right? Just go on whatever reseller platform you have, like an eBay. You'll see a bunch of USB cameras on there now. Not because people are going back to the office, right? If you look at across the world, about 50% of the people are going back. In our regions, like the UK, but also in the US, and with me in the Netherlands, only about 1/3 of the people are going back to the office. So people are stealing these devices from the office. Right, so BYOD, both from a user perspective and an IT perspective, this is not the ideal way to go. I think what we should do, what we need to aim for, and then we'll talk about Copilot, but what we need to aim for is we need to keep meetings as simple as possible. Right? The tech should never be an issue. And right now, meetings are the number one productivity disruptor out there. What you want to do is you walk in, you hit that one button, and within 5 seconds, the meeting has started. That's what you want.
That's it. Exactly.
Right? And then once people get that vision and get that idea, then the discussion from BYOD to native is really a no-brainer.
And I think it's refreshing when you were talking about this, talking about simplicity still. When I first started looking at Microsoft Teams, this is before Teams Rooms was really a discussion point for many people. I started looking at Microsoft Teams, and I remember seeing a video that Microsoft published out there, which was the utopia as far as a meeting room environment is concerned. People walk in, they're immediately recognized by intelligent cameras. The software picks up who they are. They attribute a label to them because they previously registered their voice ID and things like that. And then obviously the transcription and all the intelligent features behind that.
Yes.
That was 5 years ago that was issued. And yet here we are 5 years later, but we see the vision realized. It's actually beginning to be realized right in front of us as we speak. So it's really refreshing where, unlike a car manufacturer, they show you a concept, it's like, wow, what a great car. And then when it turns up, it's a overpriced jalopy. Right. It's a horrible thing, which doesn't show the same passion and emotion that you saw with the concept. But actually the Microsoft concept and the vision for Teams, as it always was, has actually been realized almost to the letter. I'm sure there's been a lot of innovation, a lot of things that have gone by the wayside that perhaps Microsoft have thought. Our market research now tells us, or our feedback from our customers tells us, this isn't necessary. But ultimately, it's really nice to see that that's now coming into the fray, and everybody's getting access to that. I had a gentleman yesterday who came to the stand, and he represents a major bank in Pakistan, and he was explaining to me how because of the complexity that the partner he's working with is adding to the solution, he actually struggles with much of his integration. I think it'd be very nice if you could speak with him, actually. I think he'd learn a lot from you. You kind of blow his mind. But he was having to join every single Teams channel in order to see what was happening within his estate. And I explained to him, look, the admin portal's there for you to utilize and actually get proper visibility, analytics, and see what is happening in the background very simply, very effectively. And it was kind of like...
But that's where, crazy. I think that's where partners play an important role, right? So we can do all the training and adoption training we want. But that's where our partner ecosystem is playing an important role to really help this customer to to understand how to make the best use of the technology. And for me, it's not so much about which feature can you utilize best. For me, it's about how can you turn features into experiences.
Yeah.
Right? I do a lot of storytelling. Like if we use front row, for example, which for those that don't know is just a layout in Teams rooms. You can say, well, you have front row, and then in front row the images are on the bottom, and you want to have the display, the camera below the display as well. It's good for eye contact. That's a way to tell the story. Another way to tell the story is to say, and I do this during my keynotes all the time, is to say, just look at your favorite sports game or look at your favorite movie or series. If they want you to feel the passion or the emotion of the actor or the actress in a scene, they always film the eyes.
Yeah.
If they want you to be a participant in that scene, they'll always film the face. If they don't want you to be a participant but more a spectator, they'll film you from afar of above. Now take that concept into the meeting room, right? If you have a camera that's placed above the display, they'll hover over the meeting like they're in a drone, so you'll never build that connection. Yeah. And if you do that through storytelling, that's when all of a sudden things start to click and people realize, oh wow, this makes a lot of sense, right? So I think what we need to get away from as techies is to talk too much about features. We need to talk more about experiences, because the average person doesn't care about features. Yeah. They just want meetings to work.
Yeah, they want a solution to the problem ultimately, don't they?
Right.
And this is what this provides. This is why Teams has been so widely adopted. Why Teams Rooms works. Just in the format we currently have. So I've got an interesting question for you now, and I must stress to everybody listening, we haven't scripted this. I promise you, we haven't scripted this. And Michel, in fact, didn't want to know what the questions were. He preferred not to know.
You tried to prepare me, but I was like, no, just go.
I try to be a professional sometimes. It's like 10% of my life I'm professional. The rest of the time I'm just winging it, as you can tell. But I think from me, I know you have particular insights into the development cycle from Microsoft, and I'm not going to ask you to divulge anything in particular. This isn't about what Microsoft is doing. This is about, if I gave you an unlimited budget, and I said you could have what that budget would give you in 10 years' time, what would Michel Bouman want to see happening with Teams and Teams Rooms in general? What would be your wish list?
That's one of the best questions I've had in a minute. So good job. What would be my wish list? I think we're already pretty close to what I'm looking for, right? So now
I feel like that's a cop-out answer.
No, we'll get there.
Go on.
So now with the introduction of Copilot, right? So for those that are listening that are unaware, so Microsoft 365 Copilot is a generative AI solution which we announced a couple of weeks ago, and it's going to go GA, general available,
it's amazing.
On November 1st.
Yeah.
What it does, it grabs a large language model, which is GPT-4. Moves that into Azure. So we're not using the open services from OpenAI. No, it's OpenAI on Azure. Okay. So it's, if you have anything set up for security, compliancy, and privacy, it all inherits that. You combine that with the Microsoft 365 app, so with the Microsoft Graph, which is the data layer underneath, just to say it in most simple way, the data layer underneath all your Microsoft services. What you can now do with that is you can say, so let's say I join a meeting late. You can ask Copilot what has been discussed so far. Tell me which topics have been discussed and who brought up the topic. Tell me what the sentiment is of this meeting. Tell me what decisions have been made. What deep dive question can I ask on the topic that's currently being discussed? At the end of the meeting, you'll get your full meeting notes, AI meeting notes, including all the action points. So no more need for me to take notes, which is making my life a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
Right, so go back to the concept of intelligent audio and intelligent video. If I'm able to pick up who said what during a meeting, right, I can use Copilot in the meeting room now. So that's going to help me a lot. It's already, so I've been privileged to use it now for a couple of months. It's such a game changer.
Yeah.
What it doesn't do yet, and see, when you ask me a question about in the next 10 years, we just talked about the development that we went through in 2.5 years. And it's going so fast. I think we can't imagine where we're going to be at in 10 years, right?
It's a difficult one to answer.
Right. So
a bit unfair of this question.
Yeah. So it was a cop out. But so if we look 1 year or maybe 1 year ahead, what I would love is that all the manual repeatable tasks, I don't want to do those anymore. Like, so when you tell me, okay, Michel, let's set up another meeting to discuss the partnership between Ingram Micro and Microsoft.
Yeah.
Copilot should pick that up and already start looking for a spot on your calendar and on my calendar, and then start booking a meeting. I don't even want to think about that anymore.
Wow.
Right? So that's the next step.
That really is simplifying the workflow, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't think it's far out. Right? And it's not just in Teams. It's also, I use this example all the time of, let's say you got to report numbers, sales numbers, whatever. You can now ask Excel, do the data analysis on this table of data. And it'll give you the analysis. Create me 5 relevant visualizations. I know where the visualizations are in Excel, but I always struggle. Are they under data, under insert? And if I'm in doubt, I go to YouTube to find out how to create the cool graph.
I think, where would any of us be without YouTube, right?
Right, we do it all the time. And so now you can ask Copilot to do that, and within a couple of seconds, you'll have those results. Now I want to bring those results into PowerPoint. So I go to PowerPoint, and instead of having to cut and paste and trying to find the best layout and maybe turn a Word document into a PowerPoint presentation, I just ask Copilot, grab the Word document with the explanation of whatever, and then grab the visualizations from this Excel file and create 5 nice PowerPoint slides. Yeah. And within a few seconds, you'll have those slides.
Are you using things like Designer?
So that's the next step. So if you don't like the design, you can then go to design and use DALL-E, which is an image model, to maybe add images to it. Or you can say, okay, use this corporate template to create the PowerPoint slides. Right. So all this stuff that we're now spending time on, if you ask me, I think a lawyer, right, should practice law. And the person that's the nurse in the hospital, there should be a nurse in the hospital, right? The real estate agent, they should sell real estate. They shouldn't have to spend their time in Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Teams, Outlook, all these tools, right? We should make that easier so people can focus on work, and then all the time that you win. So I think I personally win about somewhere between 45 minutes and 2 hours every day using Copilot.
Right. I've got a question for you then. Let's take it back onto the device manufacturers. I'm very interested to see what's coming down the road. But again, similar question as we've talked about with Microsoft. What would you like to see device manufacturers doing? What's the next innovation that you see is powerful in their world?
Make sure that people can keep meetings easy and create that frictionless environment, both from deployment all the way to adoption. And then continue to innovate within those boundaries, right? And I think AI is going to open up a lot of new doors for us, and I'm sure they'll figure out new cool things that we haven't seen yet, but it needs to be in these boundaries. And then for all of us, let's not talk about features. Let's talk about real experiences.
Let's get that experience going. Excellent, Michel. Really, really happy to have you here. Really glad you managed to make it, and thank you for your time and your insights more than anything.
For sure.
So enjoy the rest of the show and come back and see us hopefully before you go.
Yep, for sure. Thank you.